Welcome everybody to this new webinar of the new HelloID October release. So in this webinar we're going to explain the new functionality we just released last Monday. And if you have any questions, of course, you can ask me them in the chat, in YouTube chat, and I will look at it and try to answer it, of course. So we're only going to explain the new functionality, so not previous functionality. And if you want to keep an eye on HelloID, subscribe on our YouTube channel, because we have a lot of new videos coming up. And also, of course, this webinar, but also the product release videos, some documentation videos, and other stuff. And don't forget to hit the bell icon if you subscribe, so you will get notified when there is a new webinar or a new video of HelloID. So let's start with the new functionalities. So I've opened up HelloID here. Let me log in as an administrator. And let me go to provisioning, because those are the first two features I want to show, and that is in the target systems, and especially in the beta PowerShell target system. So that's currently still in beta. It's scheduled for the next release to go final, and then we have all the capabilities we explain in a couple of webinars. But I will do in the next webinar, if it's final, I will do a quick revisit of all the new features that we put in production at that point, because there are a lot of them and they're scattered around multiple webinars or product release videos, and that could be difficult to understand. But for this release we added some new functionality in this beta PowerShell connector, and that is that you can map arrays or objects. And how does it work? I will start with the array. So normally in most situations you have things like a family name or a nickname or a let's say a title or a department or something like that. And most of the situations there's just one single name. But in the case of email addresses, it could be that you have to send multiple email addresses to the target system. So that's the use case where we can use an array. And how do we do that? Now let's, as an example, add a field, and let's call this email address or email. And here you have the new types. So this was previously wasn't available, so everything was text, but now you have the option for array. And if you select this one, you can configure, of course, your field as normal. Remember that all those fields are strings and are not really compatible with array, so I think in most situations you have to do complex, because that's the only way to create an array. If you go to edit mapping script, you can write a function, of course, just as normal as you do as a complex mapping, and let's say return, and in this case I can return an array. So I can do something like this. At payforday.com, and let's say HelloID.com. Now I have to return it, get value. So this is a little script, but of course normally you would take the display name or the first name and last name and compile a list of email addresses, multiple domains or something like that. Now I can just hit preview, and now you will see that there is a preview available with multiple strings in this case. There are a few remarks that we have to address with the array. If you send something like a boolean or a number back, it will automatically convert it to a string. So with the array values, we only support string values or text values. So that's the same as other fields. We only support text fields and not certain types. But in this case, it's an array list of strings. But if you send another type back, it will be converted to an array. To a string. You can, of course, see that also here. If you do a preview of a person, you'll see here it's true and one. You see it's the same as normal, but you can be sure that it's a string when you use it in PowerShell. The functionality works the same, of course. How can you see if there is a difference between a text and an array? If I switch it back to text and I do a preview, you will see system.object. And if I switch back to array, of course, you will see that it's the correct version of what I wanted. So there's a big difference in that. Of course, inside the PowerShell, it will just get inside as a array collection, and you can do whatever you want, and of course send the array back, and we support it also in the store and account data. Then it's stored as a list of strings. But what we don't support currently, and that's also still in beta, that's the conditional notification event. So you cannot use this field inside the conditional notification event. Maybe that's something we will add later, but currently it's not possible. So you can only use the string fields types as an option for conditional events. So that's it for the array possibility. The other possibility, let me check if there are any questions before I continue. No, there aren't any questions. So let's continue. The other new functionality is the use of objects in the mapping. Now, when do you use an object? I think in most cases it's a really nice example for department. If you look at Active Directory, department is just a single string that you write, but there are a lot of systems that say, okay, I want a department object, and an attribute in the department object is the ID or the code and the name. So there's a difference inside each system. And to be as close as the system, we can also configure an object. How do we do that? Now let's say we have here the department. Let's change that, because this is actually the department name and not the code. And I can just do it like this. And in this case, it's department name, so it's an object, and name is the attribute. And that means that I can also add a new field where I can say department.code. And let me see if I get my department or as external ID, but I want to send it as a department.code. And with this, it means that I get inside my connector a single object with two properties inside my PowerShell. And like it says, it's useful when the target system expects a object which is a lot easier to code in PowerShell, and also it's more clear because you can see the same names in the mapping as in the code or any API documentation or something like that. There are some limitations. The first one is you can only create an object one level deep. So you cannot say I want a department and I want to say department1.code. That's not allowed. It's only allowed to have one level deep. Also, it's of course not allowed if you have the department.name and the department.code to create a new field from the type department and contains a string. That's also not allowed, because the department is an object and it contains multiple attributes, so we cannot create a string value of that anymore because it's reserved as that object. Another one you have to be careful with is case insensitive, or case sensitive, I have to say. You cannot declare a department with a lowercase d in this case and say external ID, something like that, because a department object exists with the capital D. So you have to do it like this, and then it's okay. So you have to be careful with your capital casing. If you look at a PowerShell, I don't want to show it in this video, but it will come as it's an object with two attributes. Of course, you can extend the object if you want to and send it back if you need to. But in most cases, I think the object is valid. To be sure, you can create a object with an attribute like the external ID, or let's say department.email addresses, and say, okay, I want it as an array. So the email address of the department is also an array. So you can do an object and an array inside the attribute, but you cannot do the other way around. So you cannot create objects inside an array. That's just a normal array. So that's also a limitation in both functionalities. Hopefully this was a little bit clear. Let me check if there are any questions. No, there aren't any questions. Okay, then I will continue with service automation. For the first feature, I'm going to log off and log in as a user, and I'm going to log in as Amir. And why? Because we changed something in the managed products and managed users. So in the managed products and managed users, we already had the filtering of the categories, assignments, and availability state. And if I click on this, I can say, okay, I want to filter on applications. That works fine. And within, I can search for Visio as an example. But there's also another big change here is when you click on the filtering, and also if you search on something, the URL is updated. So that means is you can copy this URL and send it to somebody else. And of course it will search based on his applications that are shown, of course, or the products that are shown based on the categories and on the search. And he will get the same results. So that's really easy to share a view of a certain application or a certain search criteria, or say, okay, I want to send it to myself and I want to search it back later or something like that. So with this you can send it really easy to somebody else. So I can do it myself if I say, okay, I'm copying this link and I open a new tab, put it in, and you will see it's automatically searched and categorized. Of course, this works also when you select multiple categories. So, as you can see in the URL, all these are added in the categories. And with all the filterings, so different filterings options, it will all be redirected in the URL, and you can send the URL to somebody to have those categories. The same applies to the managed users. So it's not only the managed products that we've updated, but also the managed users. So if I have here my user state, I can do it. Let's say this filtering, a user state and some departments. You can see here user states, active user, and departments. Those departments. In this case, there are no users in those departments, but I can select all. Also, nice to say, when you do select all, we remove the category because the filtering, because there is no filtering. It's the same as none or clear in this case. But again, you can send this link to somebody else, and based on his rights and what he can see or which users he manage, he will see the same selection, or maybe only the active users for his and the ones that he is managing. Let me check if there are any questions about these functionalities. No, there aren't any. Okay, then let's continue to the last functionality of service automation, and I think it's the best one of this release. If I log in as an administrator and I go to myself, I go to the admin portal, and of course I can configure products, products that you can request and have actions after. So in the last webinar or the last release, we updated the actions, so there are new actions available. But there's also something new with that. So let's say we have to create a product, and we say here create the user and set permissions, something like that. And normally I would create a form, of course, where hey, you have to put in the user details and which members, group members you want to set. But in this case, I will leave it like this. And I can go to my actions new. So please remember all the AD of Active Directory user details are sent from the form to the action, and also which groups you need to add. So I want to add a new action for the approve state, because I only want to do it when the form is approved by a manager or something like that. And I say create AD user and set group memberships. Let's say this is an action. Let's create them. And normally you can write your own code here and set a default script, so you have some nice defaults on which you can work. And of course that is really helpful. But in this case, and the new functionality is I want to clean up this state. I have a code snippet library, as you can see here. So this is a new button. And if I click on here, I can see all the new actions available in our repository on GitHub. So here I can say, okay, I want an account to create in Active Directory. So here is the user account create for Active Directory. We work with releases, so you can see which release it is. So you can also see the release notes and everything. We supply also on GitHub, but you can also click on the item. You can see the code snippet. So this is the action for creating an account, a default one. And of course you still need these form fields and details. And of course you can tweak it if you want to. You can also see the README. So what does it do? The action in this case, create an account. What do you need? You need the on-premise agent installed. Logically, because it's Active Directory, it runs on-premise. So you need an agent to execute this action. And the Active Directory module needs to be installed on the server where the agent is running. Also a little description, and that helps you set up your code. So you can use this part in your form as an output, or in this case an input of your action to help. So that's now we will copy that later on. And some explanation what it does and what you need to change. It's really nice. Also some release notes. So in this case it's just the initial release, but if we update something, you will see it here based on the versions. And you can also see, of course, all the different versions that we supply. We always, with the code snippet, redirect you to the latest release. So you can see the older ones on GitHub if you really want to use that one. But here in the code snippet, you can only import or copy the latest one. You can also go to GitHub if you want. So you can click on the open GitHub, and we will go to the exact release. And normally you will see here the release notes. If it's not only the initial release, you can download also the source code if you want to. You can see also if there are issues or things like that. You can see the code. It's transparent. You can see everything in our connectors. With the code snippet, what you can do is I can copy it to clipboard, and I can just paste it in here, and you will see I have the code snippet for creating an account in Active Directory. What I need to do is maybe change this form object, because it could be that I don't have all the fields, or I have different fields, so I retype those, or maybe I don't need some options and I need to remove it. I can tweak it if I want to. That's no issue. I think in most situations that's the idea. What we ask you to do is do not change this code or this line of code. Why is this inside the snippet? This helps us to identify which snippet is used and which release is used in the future. So we can maybe see there's a big issue with one of the snippets. Which customer has that snippet, and maybe we can help to update this snippet because there's a security issue in it or something like that. So with this we can search on which snippets are used in which customer or which products, and we can help out. And maybe in the future we can do something with giving you a sign that there's a new version, or maybe updating, but who knows. But that's the reason why we asked don't change these couple of lines, because this helps us searching in the future. I can also, of course, add multiple snippets. So, like I said, it's create AD user and set group memberships. So I can also say, okay, I want to have a group membership, and here I can group grant membership. You don't need to have fully opened the item. I can also click here and copy to clipboard again and just paste it. So with this I have a part of my snippet that's create an Active Directory account and a part of a snippet that sets my group. And again, here I have my form object, so I need a group name and a member SAM account name. Now hopefully the member SAM account name is an export of the create account action, else I have to map it here. But this is where you can pretty easily configure a lot of actions. Of course it's still in scripting, so you still have the flexibility to change things, but it helps you with setting up things more rapidly. And to do a lot more stuff with nice examples that are loaded from inside the product. Of course, I can still do anything I normally want to do with PowerShell. I can also add extra actions below it that isn't a code snippet or something. Of course, also our code snippet library will extend in the future. We will add multiple new code snippets for these actions. I think currently most of the actions are for Azure AD and Active Directory, but we will soon add more, so it's easier for you guys to create these actions and to manage them. So David, let me check if there are any questions. No, there aren't any new questions. So then I would like to thank you, because those were all the features. I would like to thank you for your attention. I think in the next release we will have a longer webinar, because we have the new beta PowerShell connector that's final. So that takes a lot more time, I think, to explain things and give you the information that you need. That's also the reason why this new release didn't have that many new features, because we're focusing on that for provisioning. And service automation had some new functionalities, of course, that were really nice. So thank you for listening, and till the next time.